Welcome to the Home Studio Hangout podcast, where we explore what it's like building, running, and working out of a home studio with your hosts, Joshua Matotek, Andrew Simmons, and many guests in different areas of the music industry.
Welcome back to the Home Studio Hangout podcast. I am your host, Drew, here with my co-host, Josh.
Howdy.
Josh has no idea what we're doing today.
I have no clue what we're doing today.
Today, we are doing a tier list. So I Google searched I did top 10 into Google, top 10 plugin companies, and it gave me 18. So we're just going to do all 18. So I'm going to pull it up real quick.
I pulled it up faster than you.
No, if you look at the screen, I have...
what is this? Did you make a little game?
Yeah, I have a tier list for us. A little tier list game for us.
Dude. Oh, I see. So we're going to rank it. I watched a dude do this, but with luxury watches, I'll never be able to afford.
Our criteria for this is, how much do we think? We can't think of like the best plugin. We have to think of like their entire catalog, right? For some that'll be easier. For some that'll be harder. We have to think about bloat and like how usable are every single plugin. Does that make sense?
Yeah. All right. Well, let's just start off by putting UA as S tier.
Is that how you want? Oh, and the other thing is, me and you have to agree on this. We have to convince each other.
Oh, okay.
Of stuff.
All right.
So that's why it's fun. So
that's why it's fun. All right.
That's why it's fun. Exactly. So we're gonna start with the first one. We're just gonna go in order here. Brainworks is the first one, which I also have a not used category just in case like we haven't used any of them.
Brainworks
I have not used Brainworks before.
Okay, all right. Let me put it this way. I finally loaded up their Type 69 channel strip last night, and it rips. I love their Neve 80 series channel strip because it's like the closest you could get to UA. The Neve compressors that they do are awesome. They might even sound better than the UA versions of them. Their Focusrite channel is really cool. I never use it, but it's there. And then there are some of their plugins that like I can't live without now. Like the Oven is probably the best saturation box like out there.
Oh, I didn't know that was a Brainworks plugin.
Yeah, it's a part of Plugin Alliance.
Gotcha.
Oh wait, are we doing like all of Plugin Alliance or just Brainworks?
I mean, if it's Plugin Alliance is a Brainworks thing, right?
Yeah, but then like there's also Brainworks plugins that are universal audio.
Yeah, so Brainworks in the development side of things, so it can be like,
all right, one second.
anything that is Brainworks.
Yeah, let me see what products they make.
They have a lot. This is the other thing. So this is the other thing. Do they have a bunch of like they have a couple like great stuff. Do they have a bunch of like lower or mid tier stuff bringing down the total score? You know what I mean?
All right. Well, I'll put it this way. Until like Neural Amp Modeler came out, I only used Brainworks amp sims because they sound better than every other amp sim. And so like that's a thing. Their channel strips are probably the best channel strips out there. And they don't do that Helios I was talking about because that's not technically Brainworks. That's Lindell.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Same with the Neve. So they do the AMEC 9099, which is really good. They do an SSL-J, Focusrite, SSL-E, and then dude, they do this really cool one. It's on based on Dirk Ulrich's personal Neve VXS 72. I've never used that one. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I will say their channel strips are probably like a league up from Waves. And
so I know a lot of people that I was going to say, I know a lot of people that love the Brainworks stuff and compare it to UA. Like that's the general comparison.
A lot of their stuff is on UA. Like, isn't the Mag EQ4, isn't that on UA?
I have no idea. See, I don't use any Brainworks stuff.
Almost all of their their amp sims are on.
No, yeah, I think I have. I think you get some of the Marshall stuff from them.
All right, so okay, here's the deal: the 2098 EQ is like the best analog EQ in the world. Well, you know what I mean, analog modeled EQ.
Mm-hmm.
What is this DSM-3? I've never used that. It's a spectral multiband processor. Wow. I'm gonna have to check that out.
Based on how much we know, it sounds like either A or B tier.
I think I'm gonna have to go with B tier just because
B tier?
Like they rip, but there is a lot of bloat, and I honestly am canceling my Plugin Alliance subscription once I get my next 10 plugins for free in September.
Well,
and honestly, most of it isn't even Brainworks stuff that I'm keeping. Like I'm not getting any of their channel strips. I think I might have gotten their 9000J channel strip, but
it's a good one.
I don't know. I know a lot of people love the black box HG2. I don't use that, and I feel bad for not using it. But really, like I think their strongest point are their amp sims, because like all the Alicia stuff, like that stuff is really, really cool and it sounds really good, but it's not super user friendly. But I do use their Purple Audio 1176 constantly. That's been the vocal chain lately. So
gotcha.
I would say B tier because I use like 2 or 3 of their plugins on every single mix I do.
All right, B tier. I don't have any say in there, so that's a you thing. I haven't used them. I do want to get some stuff from them, but I don't know, just haven't yet. Moving on to Universal Audio.
S.
I about to say I can't think of a better price, disregarding price in this situation, right? Universal Audio is, I would just use only UA stuff if I could.
Here's another thing too,
or like the majority of UA stuff.
Comparing it to companies like Brainworks, like if you were to buy all those plugins individually, like they're extremely expensive. So like UA is like the same price as Brainworks, but it sounds way better, and they have way more usable features. They're also making a bunch of stuff native, which is cool, so people aren't locked into their ecosystem anymore. And then I was
going to say, I think that them unlocking their plugins takes them to S tier.
I agree.
They were A tier upset before.
About that. They're like, I bought an Octo card, and it's like, hey man, like you can now sell it, like that's okay, you know.
Or you can still use it, and you can just like have that extra DSP.
Yeah, big facts. I love Spark. The problem with Spark though is if you're sending sessions back and forth, the Spark plugins won't load up for people who own them.
Yeah,
which is really trash. But honestly, it's one of those things where I never had enough DSP to really justify a lot of their plugins. So being able to like use all this stuff that I've always wanted but never felt like investing in, that's been pretty cool.
And you can't talk about UA plugins without talking about the console usability and being able to track through them. And all of that kind of stuff is a part of it as well. So that's kind of part of the sell. I definitely agree. They are my S tier for sure.
As far as just plugins go, they rip. As far as like usability,
even their amps are pretty good, man.
Well, that's because all
their Marshalls.
Well, all their Marshalls are soft tube.
Oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So like a lot of their plugins aren't
which we'll get
actually
to
just
in a minute.
UA, but like their CL1B is soft tube as well. But yeah, like I don't know, a lot of their stuff is really, really good, and I feel like it's not really fair to talk about like the interface side of things.
But it is a part of it, though.
Not really. Not if you're just buying Spark. Like you can't use console.
I mean, that's true. That's true. But I'm saying if you're talking about like the entirety of the usability of the plugins, you can't talk about the company without talking about console.
That's and very true.
The ability to track like a console, like a true console.
For those who don't know, like their plugins sound really good, but they sound better in console because console runs at an insanely high sample rate. And the idea behind that is analog gear obviously doesn't have a sample rate. So if you're saturating something, it's going to replicate that harmonic saturation to essentially infinity. While if you're using it in a DAW and you're trying to replicate that, it's going to hit your sample rate and then start folding back, which makes it sound bad. So console runs at an insanely high sample rate to eliminate as much fold back as possible. Mm-hmm. So I know people who actually will run out of Pro Tools into console to like put a compressor on their 2-bus or whatever, and then back into Pro Tools because it sounds better.
Interesting.
And so on top of that, like all their preamp plugins, they actually adjust the voltage of your preamp, which is why like their what do they call them? Unison. Unison plugins sound so much better than if you just use them in your DAW. The only downside to UA is that like all their stuff is like made in China and they're really hard to get serviced right now. But their conversion
insanely expensive.
We were just talking about conversion before we got on. They're like the only company too where you could get almost Lynx quality conversion for $1,000.
Yeah, even the lower tier stuff. Yeah, the $800 stuff or whatever.
No, the Arrow doesn't use
the Twin
Apollo X. Oh yeah,
because you can get a used Twin for like $500 or $800.
Oh yeah, definitely. But
no, not the Arrow. The Arrow, the pre's are really great on the Arrow, but it doesn't use the SEM conversion.
Yeah, and so it's I think that they're probably like the best bang for your buck. And it's weird because like, you know, I really want to avoid using them in the future just because of serviceability, but it keeps coming back as like it's really good conversion and it's super easy to use, you know.
For sure. All right, moving on to number 2 or 3 really. Native Instruments. Now,
they have a lot of bloat. I'd put them at C.
I would probably dude. So I thought about this long and hard last night.
Well, are we talking about instruments here or just plugins? Because if it's just plugins, they're D.
No. This is everything. This is what the company makes. Everything that the company makes.
Their instruments, I feel like they have a lot of bloat.
They have a lot of bloat. I was going through because I own the Complete Ultimate Special Edition, which is like every plugin I think that they've ever made. There's a lot in there that I don't even have downloaded.
Yeah,
there's
and then
so
on top
much
of
stuff
that, like I'll be honest, a lot of their stuff back in the day it ripped. Like I think that like Complete is a great thing to have if you're a producer who wants to have a lot of sounds available to you.
But especially somebody like me who's going to different genres constantly. It's huge for me.
Yeah, like I love Massive X. I think it rips. Mm-hmm. I like a lot of their contact libraries and stuff like that. But it almost seems like their like claim to fame is like all of their string libraries, all of their horn libraries, all their like live instrument stuff. And I'll be honest, it's really not that great. It's like they instantly get beat by like Spectrasonics or Spitfire.
Spitfire, or even East West, really.
Well, East West, yeah. We just don't talk about them because they're expensive.
Yeah. But where I think Native Instrument shines is honestly the stuff that people talk about the least, which is like your a lot of the synthesis stuff. They do a really good job of replication. So like a lot of synthesis replication. So anything with like an 80s kind of flair or a 60s kind of flair. And the drums are okay. I used some of their stuff in like a hip hop, like a tight hip hop kit. I've used some of that kind of stuff before, and it works pretty good. It's just not as intuitive for me as something like GGD, but maybe that's just because that's just where I come from.
I agree. And then on top of that, there's just a lot of like bloat. Like I feel like you have to dig through it to like really find the goods, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So
well, and a lot of the best stuff that you can use inside of Contact isn't a Native Instruments thing. It's third party.
Yeah, it's third party. So I don't know. I would probably put it at C.
Yeah. The only thing that keeps me from putting it in C is massive all of the reactor plugins, like all of the big synthesis plugins, and the fact that you can do Eurorack module type stuff in a plugin.
We were just talking about universal audio interfaces. So I think it's also fair to talk about that Native Instruments has given developers a platform to easily give us great products. So maybe we should put it at like a soft
I would say a soft A, because you also got to think about their hardware. They make the best MIDI controllers.
Yeah, their hardware is pretty good. All right, A. I think A is solid.
They actually make the best MIDI controller. The best keyboard I've ever played of a MIDI was the Native Instruments one.
Yeah.
And then the way it works inside of everything is great. Yeah, Softtube. I have not the least amount. I have a couple Softtube plugins. I think they're really good. They're also freaking expensive.
They're very expensive, but they're definitely worth it.
But we're also talking price is not a part of this conversation.
So, I mean, I think that they deserve a big fat S simply because of the Weiss bundle. It's a direct port of those units, of those physical hardware units. What you use whenever you use the Weiss plugins is the same thing as if you spent 10 grand on the hardware. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah. I don't even know how much the hardware costs. Weiss hardware. Let's see. Oh my God. I think it's more than that, my boy. Okay, yeah. So if you want their compressor that I think they charge like $300 for, that is $8,700. The EQ is $9,000. The DAC, well, it doesn't matter. We don't get conversion with this.
Yeah. But like just the other stuff? even just those things, the plug-in bundle's $300.
Is it really only $300?
It's on sale right now. Yeah, it's $300.
Oh, buy it. That is the best de-esser in the world. I haven't bought.
Oh, never mind. That's the DS. That's just the DS one. I wasn't on the whole plug-in bundle,
dude. So the DS one's sick. That's gonna be probably my next plug-in purchase. But I love their parametric EQ.
The Weiss bundle, the complete Weiss bundle, is $600.
Yeah, and it's honestly,
which is still really good price. Yeah,
you legitimately get over $20,000 worth of stuff for like $900 normal price.
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of, like, I think they make the best CL1B, at least that I've ever heard, in my opinion. You okay, Josh?
Oh, I'm dying on air.
Oh, okay. But yeah, I think they make the best CL1B, and also, I mean, the best Pultex that I've heard. I think their EQP1A is awesome.
I'll be honest with you. I think that, like, that stuff is kind of neck and neck with UA. And I also feel like the CL1B is kind of like a pointless mixing thing. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like the CL1B shines if you're tracking. So I've never felt the need to really buy the plugin version of it. But all of their stuff is really good, and they don't have a lot of bloat, which I think is like the important part. Like,
that is
put
true.
out like quality stuff. I actually really, really want to try the Mikey channel from Empirical Labs that they do. Just because, like, I don't know, they're a really cool company. So, but yeah, they're definitely S tier.
Yeah, because they don't have a lot, and it's all, everything they do is really good. Like we even talked about the guitar amps that they have are incredible. The bass amps they have are incredible. So yeah, I would probably agree. For something that I use very little of, the problem is these two are also the most expensive. The Soft Tube and UA are the most expensive, but it does say that, like, you know, they are worth it. It's not just expensive for the sake of being expensive.
Yeah.
Moving on, Eventide.
S tier.
So I haven't worked with Eventide plugins. I've only worked with their guitar pedals.
All right. So here's the deal. Eventide, they have a bunch of stuff. Let me see. Let me take a browse. They might, but they also might not. So plugins, and I'll explain why I said S tier so quickly. All right. So, I just remembered. I actually have to download their stuff. I did a fresh install, so I need to get these. So I'm gonna open it up.
For split EQ.
Well, split EQ rips. It's like not the most usable thing, but it can definitely save your butt on multiple occasions. Their channel strip rips. The Ultra channel. I haven't used their other stuff, but that's okay.
So they have a bunch of stuff. I didn't realize how much stuff they had.
They got all their harmonizers. They have like their pedals,
all the reverb
in this
stuff.
form.
Yeah.
But then where Eventide really goes crazy is with their stuff from Newfangled. So the Newfangled audio mastering bundle, it's called Elevate. That is okay. First of all, it's only $100 right now, so everybody needs to buy it. But Elevate is a cheat code. I swear to God, it is the best limiter in the world. And the minute that I bought that and I started using it, my mixes sounded like they could compete. And so, like, everybody who's using Pro L, that's fine. You can continue to suck if you want, or you could just get Elevate and then not suck, because this is single-handedly the best thing. Apparently, the transient emphasis in this unit can mess with either phase or like stereo imaging. I haven't noticed any difference. I keep all of their settings pretty low, and I drive into the limiter. And then I keep like the clipper at like 0.5 dB with like transient emphasis pretty low. And this thing rips. It actually has a multi-band limiter into it, so you could feed gain into each. It's like a graphic EQ looking thing, and you could feed your gain into the limiter. It's nuts.
So here is my only thing with this. They have they have some pretty cool stuff, and I actually am super interested in that because I need some new mastering plugins. But what I'm seeing is how much of the stuff that they have is usable or not been beaten out in other places.
Well, what I will say is, between their channel strip being so popular and then them offering like direct ports of their pedals, like, I don't know, I feel like that's pretty cool. And I feel like that's pretty usable. Cool. You know, like, if you think about it, like, you're able to get like the H3000 in plugin form. That's very sick.
That's pretty cool. But my thought is, how much are you going to use that in a mixing or production capacity?
I don't know.
Like, is that going to be the thing? Is that going to be the thing that you reach for? Is my thought, right? I'm not 100% sure if it would be the thing that I would reach for. And then things like I think split EQ is really cool. But I think it's like very situational.
Yeah.
I think a lot of their anthology stuff is kind of situational, right?
I agree.
So that's a whole big section of their plugins that are, and then like they have the Clockworks bundle, which is, it's cool, but it's, once again, it's like some of those things wouldn't be the things that I would necessarily reach for first. I would actually probably go towards a Sound Toys for some of that stuff.
I agree. First. I would too. But then like the fact that you're able to get like H9 on your computer.
Yeah, no, I think it's huge. Cool. I think it's huge. I think honestly,
and I see people talking about how happy they are that they're able to just load up a plugin that's the black hole.
I think it's B tier for the limiter and the reverbs being the thing that are like the strongest parts of their stuff. Right, I am willing to say A tier, though. I am willing to say A tier.
How much more bloat does Native Instruments have, and you just put them at A? All right,
because they do the hardware side of things, and they do the third party option of making people that. So that kind of broadens their horizon a lot more. Now, like I'm saying, I'm willing to give Eventide an A. Because I agree with you. You sold me. You sold me. Hold on. You sold me on the guitar pedal side of things. That is massive. Mm-hmm. It's a thing. I wish Strymon would do that.
All right. Let's do some math here. All right. How many plugins do they have?
Eventide or Native Instruments? Because I think Native Instruments comes in, the reason it's A tier is because all of its synth options are some of the best, especially in the bundles.
All right, so they have 46 plugins. All right. And you're claiming that maybe 1, 2, 3, so that's 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. That maybe 20 of them are going to be bloat. All right. So
that's a small company. So like a small plugin selection.
So that means that you're claiming that their bloat percentage is 43%. Okay.
Which is probably equal to Native Instruments, I would say.
But they also make the best limiter on Earth. Okay. And now, so Native Instruments, on the other hand.
And I will say Native Instruments also defined a genre, because Massive is literally just the sound of dubstep.
All right. Well, and FM8.
And FM8, yeah.
I can't even count. There's so many.
There's a lot of that's a problem. But and I've been really sold on I think Guitar Rig has some of the better clean tones of any kind of amp sims. And you get things like ROM, which are incredible reverb. They have some cool saturation stuff. They have all of their synths are great. A lot of their world instruments are pretty good, because they're also, a lot of them are hard to find. It's stuff that is hard to find, and there's not a comparison for, right? I would say about 48%. Are you doing math real quick? Are you agreeing with me? Yeah, that's what I thought. I'm putting it in A tier, Josh. I'm putting Eventide in A tier, but I will put it, if you can do the math, I will put it above Native Instruments on the list. You're doing so much math.
19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. All right. 127 things that it ships with. 127. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And so far, the winners here are Massive X, Reactor. I'll say Super of plugins. Is pretty cool.
Because the Reactor is just FM8. A host.
We're talking about individual units here, my boy. And
I know, but a Reactor is a host. It's like Contact, right? Where
40's
it's like,
very own keys is fire. Hybrid keys is sick.
40's drums are sick.
All right, so at minimum.
And then you got things like Razor. Razor's awesome.
I think I did the math wrong for the other one. It might be a 60% instead of 40% bloat rate, but regardless,
over 50%.
That means that Native Instruments is at a 96% bloat rate, my friend.
No, not for me. I mean, that's just for you thing. That's a for you thing.
All right.
Like I said, I'm willing to put it above Native. I'm willing to put Eventide above Native Instruments in A. I personally think it's B.
Go ahead.
Because
put it in A.
Because that's where I would have it.
Here's the deal. If you put it in A, you have to promise me that you're going to try Elevate this week, and then you're going to call me and you're going to say, "Oh my gosh, Josh, I've been stupid for not using this." Okay. And then you're going to understand how it outweighs everything else. Oh my goodness, getting a little animated. But,
I will do that.
It's like I don't know. That's like saying like Ford is like B tier. You know what I mean? Because like all their cars like suck, but then like they also are like the leader in like racing back in the day.
Yeah. No, I can see what you're saying. I think Eventide in hardware and pedal form, and this is the other thing I have to think about, if we're including like what they did for like hardware, like pedals, that's immediately A tier. So
yeah, that's a really good point, because I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, if you
like honestly, like how many people swear by their pedals and use them day in and day out on tour, you know?
Well, and on top of that, like all of their pedals are just hardware versions of the plugins. Now.
Yeah, and
that's like the way they're made.
Too, I don't even think Newfangled is like really made by even.
No, I think I think it's a collaboration, like a Brainworks UAD situation.
All right,
but I think the pedals immediately, I would agree, put it top of A tier, above Native Instruments. Yeah. All right, SSL, the plugins. I have never used SSL plugins.
I've used them, and I feel like my opinion is going to make people mad, because they were all like, "Yo, these are like next level." And then I used them, and I was like, they sound really, really good. But I also never reach for SSL stuff, you know. Like I'm not like a G-Comp dude.
It's not your flavor.
Yeah, like I don't know. I'm just not a G-Comp dude. So like every time I do want that sound, I typically just end up using like the Waves plugin, because also like the Waves plugin kind of has a sound that like we're used to. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So it's like
agreed.
They're like Fusion EQ and like stuff like that are like cool. They're really cool, but I just don't really see it being something that's valuable to me. If I was a Fusion owner and if I was like an SSL owner, then like maybe I would have been like, yeah, this is fire, you know.
But here's my opinion, because I have not used it, but this has just been my opinion, like in general. I think that even if I had the option to go for SSL, I would rather go for Waves. One, because I know it better. I know what it sounds like. I know how it feels, how the input is. Or number two, I go for UAD, because once again, I think they make the highest quality plugins.
I agree. And then on top of that too,
with the higher sample rate.
there's so many good emulations out there. And then like on top of that, like you have to think about how like there is some form of like familiarity that plays into like what we like. And I think everybody learned how to EQ on the SSL E channel from Waves, you know?
I still use that. I used it today.
I used it for a very, very long time. I still pull it up. Oh, you know what I've been pulling up a lot more though is just the SSL EQ.
Yeah, I do that. I do that for Master Bus, actually. It's a great Master Bus EQ.
It rips.
Like a sweetener.
And yeah, so I don't know. I mean, we're over here talking about another plugin company. So I don't know. I would personally put it at probably B.
I have it in D. I have it in D because I think it's redundant. I think other plugin companies do it better.
You haven't used them though.
That is my opinion on not just from the outside looking in. The reason I've never used it is the same reason why I think it's D tier.
Yeah, I mean, sure, it's like, yeah, it's redundant, and I would rather use other things, but like they aren't bad plugins. So
no, I'm not saying they're bad plugins. That's fine.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Yeah,
first
just
C
definitely
tier.
not.
Yeah.
Just definitely not A.
Oh no! I think I don't even think it's B. There are Brainworks plugins that I'd rather have.
I see so many people praise those plugins, you know, but like they've stopped using Waves, or you know, or like they use SSL hardware a lot, and so like they appreciate how similar it is and how good it sounds. And there's like this weird phenomena where a lot of people get used to how plugins sound. So whenever they use the hardware, they're like, oh, that's weird, you know? And so I feel like SSL, like the people that love their stuff are the people that use the hardware. You know?
I think that we're going to piss people off with that one.
We are, but it's still, it's not going to piss people off as much as your TikTok that you posted last night.
This is our opinions. This is fully our opinions.
You know what? You should
the TikTok is factual.
You should just put a little picture of a Focusrite Scarlett at the end there. So rate that one last.
Rate that one. I'll make a new F tier.
Yeah.
All right.
Terrible.
Yeah. All right. The next one. Do you know this logo? I had never seen this logo until I looked it up.
I know that logo, but I can't remember who it is.
It's Oak Sound.
Yeah. They don't make a lot of plugins. I'll be honest. I don't own a single one of their plugins.
I do.
I have demoed their plugins multiple times, and each time I'm like, I should probably buy this, and then I kind of forget about it. But I would say S tier.
So I would agree. Do you know the thing that took it for me from this is just a really cool thing to immediately this is something that makes it more broadly usable? They made a version of Soothe that is made for Avid and S6L consoles for live use. They have a Soothe Live.
Sick. I wonder if Nick uses that. I'll have to hit him up. I don't think he's on an S6L right now, but that's super, super sick. Dude.
Yeah. So that's the thing that like they were already A tier for me. And even just like the thing we learned from Tanner the other week of like using it like Waves Factory's track spacer and all that kind of stuff with more parameter control and mid side. The fact that it has mid side is insane.
Dude, I think like I'm sorry.
And then Spiff. And then
I was gonna say like
I
honestly think that Spiff is where this company shines. Like everybody loves Soothe and everybody raves about Soothe. But the fact that you're able to like clean up vocals in a really pleasing way with Spiff is super cool. Like it's just super cool. And like there's a lot of plugins that kind of do the Soothe thing pretty well, which is why I still haven't gotten it. But I think Spiff is the real like kind of secret weapon.
It's going in S tier, but it's going in low S tier because of it's only got 3 plugins.
Nah, that's not fair. That's not fair. No,
that's not fair.
No,
but I mean, I don't think it's better than SoftTube. Do I think it's better than SoftTube? No. Do I think it's better than UAD? I don't think so. But
you know what though? Wouldn't you say it's kind of a cop out to just make plugins that are hardware emulations versus like coming up with something entirely unique?
That is what I love about Oak Sound in general is that all of their stuff is, and we're going to get to this later, literally with the next one, but it's like fully new, unique stuff that no other plugin does.
Yeah.
So I love Oak Sound. I will.
Next one's easy.
Yeah, FabFilter.
Yeah. DT.
What are you about to say?
No, I'm just kidding.
Josh.
All right, so I only have the mix and master bundle from them. I've only had that for years, almost 10 years.
So what's the mix and master bundle? I can't remember.
EQ. So it's Pro Q, Pro MB, Pro C, Pro L.
Okay.
I have tried their de-esser. I don't really like their de-esser.
Their gate's pretty cool.
Their gate is probably like one of the best gates out there.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the Sonox gate is better, but I've never used it.
The Oxford one?
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know these things. Yeah. I'm dumb. And then Pro R is cool. I've used that quite a bit, and it's cool, but it's one of those things where it's really not too much different than other reverbs. And then they do have a bunch of plugins that are kind of like just mid. Also, like Saturn is sick. I know people who live and die by Saturn.
Yeah.
I never really I've tried it multiple times and I've used it at other people's studios. I never really felt the need to just buy Saturn.
Yeah, me either. I would rather use thermal for what I would use Saturn for personally.
Yeah, and I'll be honest. I think that where they really shine is simply Pro Q and Pro MB. I think that those
they're
are like the
so
best.
Strong. They're so strong.
Pro C is also sick, but it could be a little light-handed. And I'd rather.
But sometimes that's what you need. Sometimes that's what you need, right?
Yeah, but I'd say A.
I would say high A. I say it's the top of A.
High A. But like, it's also one of those things where like we have dudes out here mixing platinum records on just FabFilter and Waves. So like,
yeah. But I think FabFilter is doing a thing like Oak Sound, where it's a plugin company that's making something that literally no other plugin company is making. Right. At least I think that more companies are like basically copying Pro Q now. But they still aren't doing the things like the freaking square band that you can make with FabFilter and just like hard notch out spots and stuff. Yeah.
The only thing that I've found that beats Pro Q is Kirchhoff, but the controls aren't as good. Like you have to set up presets for what band you want to pop up, which is honestly kind of sick. So like my roll off for my low end is set to be a Matotek, which is super cool. My high end is a Neve EQ, which is sick. And so like you're able to set those curves that you're familiar with hearing from hardware.
Yeah, but then you're using kind of emulation for that. It's kind of like using emulation in combination with it.
Not really. It's only the curve. There's no saturation.
Oh, okay. Okay. Understood.
Yeah. It's only the curve. And then it does have dynamic EQ, but the quick controls aren't as fast. So you have to set up like your parameters for like, if you click between this frequency range, this band pops up. If you click between this, then this pops up. But there's no fast way to do dynamic EQ, which is why like Pro Q is still the best.
Pro Q is awesome. And it does like this, how surgical you can get with it. Like you can I've completely fixed vocals with Pro Q, like fully just healed vocal tracks.
Dude, Pro MB is such a good utility too. Like, I forget what it's called, but it's the one setting where you can trigger a band based on another band. That
so it's sidechain expansion is the thing that you're talking about, I think.
I don't think so.
Is that not what it is? Oh, I'm thinking of the hi-hat thing. That's what it is. You can use it as an expander because you can use it as an expander as well.
Yeah, which is very cool. You could do it as like you could use it as like a very soft gate. Here, let's see. So Pro MB.
I remember the first time I saw Nolly do his hi-hat trick where or his snare hi-hat bleed trick where he used Pro MB to like in between snare hits, soften the high end using Pro MB.
You can also do the same thing.
Oh.
You could do the same thing with Saturn, which is pretty cool.
And Pro Q. You can do it with Pro Q now too, I think. But
it's the free band thing that you can select. Then you can select a range that you want to hit so it ducks the other one. That thing is super cool. Like I was using it on vocals not too long ago, where any vocalist hit like this higher frequency, it would do some weird stuff in the low end. So you set that up, it'll pull back the low end. Then you could use something like Spectral Shaper or Soothe to fix the high end. I'd used it on a guitar the other day where I would hit this one chord where it just made this awful like warbly sound in the low mids. So that would get sucked out every time I would hit the frequency range that that chord was hitting. It's probably like the coolest like utility multiband out there.
No, for sure. I definitely agree. The only thing that brings it down to S tier is some of the things like they have synths and stuff that is just kind of bloaty for me, and some of the redundancy things. Yeah. Basically, if they got rid of that out of their catalog, I don't think anybody would care, and it would be a better catalog.
Right.
All right. IK Multimedia.
That's tough. So like I started using like the low tier of T-Rax. I really like their clipper. I really like their 1176. It's one of the better sounding 1176s. Their de-esser is pretty cool too. I like that. Lee uses a bunch of the T-Rax stuff, and he swears by, I think it's like the Sunset Sound reverbs, and like those things sound really cool.
I have the Sunset Sounds, and it is a full on just like room replacement.
Yeah.
Like if you have a bad room, mute your room track, get all your close mics, and make a new room with Sunset Sounds. It is crazy how well that works.
It kind of feels like the Sunset Sound stuff can easily be replaced nowadays, but it is really good.
I think it has just more options than those do, like because it's got 3 options per. It's got 3 sub options per overall option.
Yeah. So but then like also like they do have a ton of bloat, and I'll be honest, Amplitude kind of sucks. And
I only like the T-Rax clipper I've heard is great. I love the Sunset Sounds reverb to death. I will sing its praises forever. It is worth every bit of money I spent on it. The bass amps are really good. Like the Ampeg stuff that they have are very good. That is about where I end with IK. There is a ton of bloat in my opinion.
They have so much stuff. Like honestly, I would probably put them down at like C tier. Just because
the thing
like they only have
agreed.
My favorite plugin from them is the easiest one to code.
Yeah. The other thing that kind of brings them down for me is they make hardware, and it is not good.
Oh yeah. Well, they started doing that Tonex thing, and apparently that rips. But I don't know. I still feel like they're pretty low down there.
Yeah, I would say C. I would agree with C. I would say
I downloaded Tonex. I got to try it.
Yeah, definitely let me know how that is. I'm interested. But to me, as of right now, it's like bottom of C. It's probably our lowest.
Ryan was saying it's basically the same as Neural Amp Modeler.
Okay. Interesting.
Except you could buy a $400 pedal and run it like that live, which is pretty cool. But also, like, I haven't tried it, so I don't know. I would say like C, just because of all the bloat.
Yeah, I would agree. So pausing right here to go over our current list. So we have no D tiers. We only have plugin boutique and not used because it wasn't supposed to be in this list anyway. C tier, we have lowest to highest, IK Multimedia and Solid State. B tier, we have Brainworks. A tier, we have Native Instruments, Eventide, and then FabFilter sitting at the top of A tier. S tier, we have Oak Sound, Soft Tube, and sitting on top as king right now, we have Universal Audio. I actually feel really good about this list. I'm not going to lie. I actually feel really
pretty good.
Solid about this list.
I know that like I'm still iffy on the solid state one, but it's also like whatever. You know,
I feel like that's
late to the game. Thing. You know,
they were years late to the game. I wanted their stuff years after they put it out. All right, so or years before they put it out. And that's when UA stepped in and made themselves kind of king of that space. So Sound Toys.
S.
I would say I'm torn between A or S. I have to look at their stuff. Because I think
Sound
it's
Toys,
S.
Sound Toys is the only company that will sell you all of their plugins for $500. I got mine on an educational discount for $250.
Yeah,
almost 10 years ago, and I still use all their stuff. I never had to pay them any more money. All of their plugins always work. They issue updates. They're great. They're the only plugin company that I gave them money once, and they were like, "Great, you can use my stuff forever." Like,
that's true.
I love them, and
because they're also they're one of the few non-subscription model plugin companies that who offers like everything from mixing plugins to production plugins.
And I'll be honest with you, I think that they might have to take Universal Audio as the top one, because I'm about to go through their entire product list and let you know everything that I use. So
I use it all. I'm looking at it right now. I think I use it every single thing in here. The only thing I don't have Primal Tap. I don't have Super Plate.
I don't have Super Plate.
I don't have Primal Tap. New. Yeah, it's new. But I also don't need Primal Tap because it's like lo-fi, and I have a bunch of stuff that does that.
All right,
bro.
So
Devil
Echo Boy
Lock.
Jr. Devil Lock's crazy.
Gas. Echo Boy Jr. Gas. For how much little CPU it uses? Insane.
Bro, Aaron Pace showed me this thing where he was like, just don't use any echo time on Echo Boy Jr. and then use the quick settings to make cool effects. And I was like, that's fire. So, all right, I use Echo Boy Jr. I use little micro shift more than I use big micro shift. Primal Tap is super sick. Little Radiator, I use that every time I mix anything that involves kick drums or 808s.
Yep.
Devil Lock, I use on rooms. Big Radiator, sometimes I use it.
It's good on vocals sometimes, actually.
Is really, really sick. Little Plate Rips, I used to use it all the time.
I still use it all the time.
Great. Pan Man, sometimes I use it if I want weird panning.
Good for like panning hi-hats or synths or trying to make some space. Little Plate is my go-to for vocal plate if I want something really tight.
Yes, I agree. And so the most used plugin, though, hands down, Decapitator.
Oh, yeah. Decap, bro.
It's still like the GOAT of saturation plugins. And then Crystallizer, I use that constantly. Little Alter Boy, it's not 2016 anymore, so I don't use it as much as I used to. But it's still
I use it sometimes. I use it to destroy stuff more than anything. Nowadays.
What I've been using lately, probably about as much as Decapitator, is Filter Freak. I feel like that might be one of the most.
That's the other one I don't have.
All time.
That's the other one I don't have.
You need to get it, dude. You need to get it. It's so good.
Yeah, I would say because I use this stuff on. This stuff is good for mixing. This stuff is good for production. This stuff is good for songwriting. Essentially, Little Alter Boy defined the sound of like the mid 2010s. So and the fact that I mean, I know price isn't a factor in this situation, but they basically will give you plugins. If you do it right, they will just give you stuff.
And then on top of that,
it's awesome. I love them as a company.
They don't have a single plugin that I can look at and be like, oh, that's just bloat. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they don't have
everything that they make is extremely usable.
I agree.
So
let's pop Sound Toys.
I think that they dethrone UA.
I would agree. And once again, this is where the originality comes in. I think the originality is what puts them over UA, in my opinion. The fact that they are making stuff that nobody is making, and it's not replications of stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
Awesome. We love you, Sound Toys. Please sponsor the podcast.
Honestly, like I said, Sound Toys is the only plugin company besides maybe Valhalla that I feel like they're just out here doing the Lord's work. You know,
Facts.
It's like you made all of these incredible plugins. You only drop new ones if they're also incredible, and you charge barely any money for them. You know,
yeah,
it's like like I said, I paid $250 for their plugins, and I'm gonna have them forever. Like that is awesome.
They're some of their plugins are desert island plugins for me. Echo Boy, desert island plugin. It's actually my sauce for hip hop vocals. If you want that like delay, like 15 IPS, like super fast, like delay wide thing, that's like the sauce for hip hop vocals, dude. All right, moving into this is a big one. Slate Digital. I have before we do this, I have a question to ask you. Do you want to also include Steven Slate drums into Slate Digital? Because that does change things for me. Because Trigger is also awesome.
Their hardware, right? Like if we were talking about hardware,
we're talking about hardware. We keep because they're plug-in companies, but some of these also make hardware.
All right, so let's start with hardware, like low to or high to low. All right.
Okay.
The Slate Dragon.
So, real quick, do you want to include Steven Slate drums in that?
We should.
I think
it's
we
all
should.
the same thing.
Okay. Cool.
Okay, you know what I mean? Like, obviously, he only did that. Like, he only separated them for marketing and tax purposes. So, like, I think
I get it. But yeah. Okay, cool. So, so firstly, for me, Trigger. Oh my gosh,
it's the best gate in the world.
Yeah,
and it saves lives every day.
Best drum gate I've ever used.
Yeah, and then the flip side of that is like Steven Slate drums, like the actual drum packs. Those are kind of ass.
Sure. But like
they're also dated though. Like he's not doing
they're very dated. Anymore. He's not updating them. He really only updates the program.
Yeah, I see who's last on our list, and we're very quickly gonna disregard some of their stuff. So yeah, I mean I won't even really consider the drum packs. But yeah, Trigger is insane. As far as hardware goes, it gets iffy because
that's where I'm gonna slide into first. I need to look up their company website. Let me look up their website.
So you're familiar with the Dragon, right?
I am not familiar with the Dragon.
Okay, so
we've both used Slate All Access though at some point.
I still have it, yeah. So
I don't.
Slate hardware, they're like pro tier stuff, like the Slate Dragon. It's one of the most used and most popular 1176s out there. So if you don't know what that is, it is an extremely customizable 1176 with a Neve output transformer on it. I think that's what it is. And you get a mix knob. You can control how much it's saturating. Ooh. So you can get it really clean, really dirty.
And this is a hardware unit?
Yeah, it's a $2,200 1176 that most people will definitely choose over the Universal Audio one. We didn't even talk about Universal Audio hardware like that.
Yeah, I know. Because I was thinking the plug-in company. Yeah, I was thinking the plug-in side of stuff.
See, we're getting derailed because, like, honestly, UA should be at the top. You know what? No.
No. We have it in the right order right now.
Sound Toys has better ethics. All right. So,
we have it in the right order right now for originality purposes, if anything.
Facts. So, and all UA did was buy up all of the rights to all those old pieces of gear. So, the Slate Dragon is an extremely unique 1176 that many, many, many professionals swear by. So that's cool. Their Fox, which is a preamp, is super cool. I loved using it. It doesn't have an EQ on it, so I typically wouldn't use it for vocals. But that thing is cool. You're able to switch between like a 1073, something else, or no, an 1173 or super clean. So they literally say like we modeled it after a Millennia preamp, and then you're also able to like combine the two, which is super cool. And so I think that that's sick. But where it gets dicey is with stuff like the Raven.
The Raven, yeah.
And then all their modeling stuff, which is just like, in my opinion, it's just all junk, you know?
I'm not sure. I will say I like the ML2s a lot.
ML2s, I've never heard a bad thing about them, but because
they're good. But most people don't use them with the software. They're just good mics.
Yeah, and then like the ML1, in my opinion, is awful. I don't like the modeling software, and they're extremely unreliable, and they break a lot.
They do break a lot. The only mics that I found that I like are from the Blackbird bundle.
Yeah, like if you're starting out and you get that mic, you're like, oh, this thing rips, and then like you try other things, and you're like,
yeah. Once you get into like being able to afford like $1,000 plus mics, it's pretty awesome. I will say they have a bundle right now for $900. You get 2 ML2s and an ML1 with the software and everything, which is like a pretty dang good deal if you're just getting into like tracking yourself at a semi-high level.
Oh, dude. Well, also UA just acquired Townsend like completely and Bach.
Oh, did they? Good for them.
Well, I won't say good for them, but what I will say is that the Bach mics are some of the best mics you can buy. And then on top of that, the Townsend mics are like the best modeling mics in the world. So I think that alone is kind of preventing me from wanting to say S tier, despite like the Dragon being so sick, but purely plugin wise.
And yeah, they do have some really great plugins.
I think they started off strong, but now the only time I use actual Slate plugins is if I want their custom opto.
Yeah. They have a good distressor.
I like their distressor.
Yeah, they have a good distressor.
So those are really the only two things I use. I've been using some of their new stuff, like their transient designer is kind of cool that they dropped.
Yeah, I saw they just dropped that.
All in all, like they just kind of feel like they're more like utility kind of plugins where it's like they aren't trying to make like the best clone. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it is, and to be fair, it is good. It's good and it's cheap at the monthly rate. Even like Fresh Air as like free plugin is pretty crazy. The fact that they have Anna 2 is pretty cool.
Yeah. And Anna I use a ton. And
yeah, it's pretty awesome. I own it.
Subscribed.
I own it outside of them though. So I just own it.
That.
Yeah, but, I own it from Sonic Academy.
Yeah, I don't know. It's tough because like I feel like they're either A or they're S tier, and it's mostly just because of their. But like we're talking about plugins here, but like their hardware is sick. So I don't know. I'd say A.
I would say A. Above or below Eventide is the question for me. It's not above Fab Filter for me. It's not above Fab Filter for me. Okay.
Because I've never picked up a Slate
here's the other thing.
Like, here's the other change in my life.
Is the Slate hardware better than the Native Instruments hardware?
Yes.
Just from that 1176?
Just from the 1176. They figured out how to make the most usable 1176.
Yeah. I don't have any experience with that. So I'll trust you on that.
That kind of blew up because people started using them after like the Dr. Luke like Ref C TG2 like 1176 thing. And then a lot of people started trying the Dragons, and now like a lot of people use those. And
that makes
they're
sense.
A fan favorite in the one Discord I'm in. And I really want one.
Yeah, that makes sense. Cool. I think this one's a little tricky because Isotope is technically no longer a company yet, or not. They're getting absorbed.
Well,
they're getting absorbed by Native Instruments.
Technically, Brainworks wouldn't have been either because they're a part of that deal.
Well, they're their own company still. Isotope is getting fully absorbed.
Oh, that's a shame.
But they haven't been yet, and you can still buy your own stuff. I think Isotope's stuff is getting all plugged into the native access,
so I don't even think I really
things.
need to discuss it that much. I think that Isotope is S tier above Softtube.
I think you're right. Hold on,
because
I have to check. But I'm
here's the deal.
I'm
RX,
90% sure you're right.
RX is witchcraft. Okay.
Yeah, RX
more
is
witchcraft
absolute
than
magic.
Soothe, in my opinion.
And
then Ozone, they just keep adding great stuff to it. Neutron, awesome. They even have their own little
the little mix thing
version of Soothe in multiple ways now.
Mm-hmm.
But I know for a fact I could finish an entire song only using Ozone Advanced.
And I gotta say, Nectar for if you're a beginner, this is what I've actually told a lot of people. If you're a beginner and you're just trying to do some production stuff like over beats or whatever, just get Nectar and find a good preset that works for you and tweak it to your voice. Because honestly, dude, there's some incredible presets in Nectar for vocal, especially pop and hip hop vocal production. There's some incredible stuff in there. They made it as usable as possible. Okay,
also,
so then we get into. I haven't used Neoverb. I was going to say vocal synth is insane.
Vocals, I have vocal synth. It's really sick. I don't work on a lot of music that requires me to use it, but it is really cool. Neoverb is probably the coolest creative reverb ever made.
Yeah,
probably next to Crystalline, which I also still need to get.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that Neoverb is
maybe it's
really cool.
Maybe it's not getting absorbed. Maybe no, it's not getting absorbed. It's still its own site and everything. So it just says Isotope. It just says Isotope by Native Instruments now. So it's a subsidiary company.
But Isotope, I think that they've made enough plugins that rip versus plugins that don't. I don't think that they've made a bad plugin.
No, tonal balance is cool.
I was going to mention that.
Vocal synth is the best vocoder, I think, unless you're getting a hardware one. It's the best software vocoder that I've ever used. Insight is pretty cool. It's really good metering because it's very accurate and it's very consistent and low and zero CPU basically. So it's good for if you're doing things like sampling or voiceover work, trying to keep your audio levels at the same average. You can meter while you do that kind of stuff, and it's really, really good. So yeah, I'm looking at it all. I see nothing that I would be like, yeah, I could do without that.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think, in my humble opinion, that they should go above Softtube.
I would agree with that, and the only I think I would agree with you on that. Because once again, I think there are some things in the lower tiers that I don't use Isotope for, but I could use Isotope for. Right.
I was just thinking that because I was like, are they really better than FabFilter? And it's you've literally done songs where you have only used Ozone on the vocal.
Exactly. Or just use Nectar and Neutron for the vocal, and the mix. So I would agree. Yeah. And I mean, even just if you just look at Ozone and RX right there, both of those absolute witchcraft, have no business being as good as they are.
Being that good, yeah. And then Neutron has the best transient designer in the world.
Really? I've not used the transient designer.
You haven't used it. It's best. Put it on precision mode. It's fire. It's
Wait, no, I have used it. Else. I have used it, and I did really like it. Like it, actually.
It's
I
really good. Used it. Neutron is worth it just to get the transient designer.
100%. All right. Arturia.
S tier. No, don't hit me with that.
I gotta look. I don't think it's S tier. I don't think it's S tier.
If we're accounting for everything that they make, they're S tier because they're also single-handedly like disrupting the synth industry by being like, hey, we can make cheaper synths that do more stuff than
we did do a whole entire episode about how good their cheap hardware synths are.
Yeah, and then here's the other thing too. So their software instruments are probably the best value for analog modeled synths. And then Pigments is one of the best soft synths. And then all of their effects are absolutely insane, to the point where like every day I wake up and I'm like, man, I should really buy that bundle now because I've demoed all of it and it's all incredible. Their stay level is the best plugin stay level. Their 1176 is great. Like basically what they've figured out how to do is give people incredible hardware synths, incredible software synths, and then all of the necessities for like the most popular like plugins of all time. And to me, Arturia kills T-Rax. You know what I mean? Like I feel like Arturia kind of did what T-Rax wanted to do, but way better. And they even do, I don't know. They just do a lot of good stuff.
If we're including the hardware, it's really wild how good their stuff is, because you also get into things like their sequencing controllers, like the Step series, and you get into like even just their MIDI controllers. They're pretty good.
Yeah, and like I've literally heard people be like, "Yeah, I just got the Arturia effects thing, and now I don't use like any of my other plugins."
Their interfaces are kind of not good. At least from what I've heard. They spec really well.
Yeah.
I don't know how good they translate to actual usage. I would have to like, I've only used the cheaper, the lower end ones. I think it's the mini fuse and the audio fuse.
But yeah, I don't know. I would definitely say that they're S tier just because like Collection 5 or whatever is sick. Pigments is sick. And their effects are great. To the point where I would go as far as saying as all of their effects compete with Universal Audio's effects.
So, okay, let's start at A tier and work our way up. So I think they're better than Native Instruments from a synth perspective. Facts. I think Native Instruments has more, which is why I have all of their stuff. But Arturia has some of the best, like truly modeled stuff. Their Juno sounds exactly like a Juno. Their Prophet sounds exactly like a Prophet, and it is insane how accurate it is. So then if we're going to Slate, the only thing we could compare them there is hardware, and it way beats out their hardware. Then we're going to Eventide. I think it's better. Their Arturia is better than Eventide. Fab Filter. There's not really a comparison there, right?
No, there's no comparison. They do completely
not really
different
a comparison.
Things.
They do totally different things. One's more for utility. One's more for like production.
You can't compare them.
Yeah.
You,
that's
you
the hard
kind of
part.
compare them to Softtube because I think Softtube started making synths, but
yeah, Softtube kind of has, and they do really good. Like that is probably where I would put Arturia, is above or below Softtube.
I agree. I'll let you choose which way, but it's definitely S tier.
I would say above. It's definitely S tier. I would say it's above Softtube because of the Brute series synths and the Freak series synths.
Yeah,
those just blow the doors open to a whole new world of people using their stuff.
And also, you have to understand too. All of our picks for S tier are primarily like plugins that you would use for mixing, besides like sound toys. Also, Universal Audio has killer synths now, and we didn't mention that before.
Yeah, that's a newer thing that I haven't really dove into.
Oh, it's so good, and their piano is really good. The Ravel, it's great. But,
I've heard good stuff about that.
That's definitely where Arturia goes.
I would say Arturia is there. Arturia is one of those things where like I always want to buy their plugins, and I just haven't. bought a lot of them.
So
I have
Arturia,
a decent amount, but I am not. I want to get their V collection so bad.
You need to. It's rent to own on Splice if you want to try it out and not make a huge investment.
I don't mind making the investment because I know I'm gonna like it.
But yeah, it's super sick, man, and it's also kind of funny because it's like the first like primarily like instrument and production based company that we have on the S tier.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Because most instrument and production based things are kind of just okay.
I agree.
I would say, which is sad.
Wait, what happened to X for Records?
Oh, I forgot to put it on this list. You're right. Because it wasn't on the big list that I pulled.
Oh.
Zypher. I would.
Is that how you're supposed to say it?
That's how I say it. Zypher.
I don't know.
Because it's XY. It's XYFER.
It's XFER.
Oh, then I don't know.
Yeah.
X for I don't know. But anyway.
All right, moving on.
Moving on to Sonox. I own 0 Sonox plugins. I don't have any opinion. Okay, so Sonox, not used.
Sonox is one of those. Yeah, put them in not used because I know that Sonox, like, there are some dudes who have been around for a long time that like mostly use just like Sonox. Like Inflator is still talked about constantly.
Yeah,
their drum gate is fire. Like Sonox used to be like everybody's go-to before like Fab Filter was a thing. So I think we just came up at the wrong time.
Probably. And it's kind of expensive. Like the Sonox stuff is kind of pricey. It's a little more, from what I remember, it's a little more expensive than the Fab Filter stuff because they like never go on sale, like ever. Yeah. At least the Fab Filter stuff goes on sale like once a year.
Yeah. Next one is going to be so easy.
Yeah, Spectrasonics. That's S tier. That's easy S tier.
It's easy S tier, but then it's also the first in line at S tier.
I would say, is it better than Sound Toys?
Yes, it's so much better.
Is it better than Sound Toys?
Spectrasonics.
They do different things.
Right, they do different things, and
that's the problem.
Here's my argument for it.
Okay,
so Sound Toys made a great set of effects that you're able to use a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Spectrasonics set out to make the most detailed and advanced sample libraries ever. And I would go as far as saying that Spectrasonics is better at making sample libraries than Spitfire, East West. Yeah, Spitfire and East West.
Then the big three.
Yeah, and so if you want analog synths, you just dive in there and you find their analog synths that they modeled, and they sound way better than anything that's modeled. So,
except for honestly our next one, I think they may have topped them in a couple areas, but they only have a couple synths. But we'll get to that in a second.
So I think the Spectrasonics, just because of the amount of like research and development and like time and precision that it takes to make a product that good, because like really they only have three.
I think you're convincing me because I just thought about the fact
three
that
plugins, right? They have Omnisphere, Keyscape, and
Trillion,
and all three of them are the best at what they do.
Yeah, and
so it's like a Sound Toys scenario where they only put out good stuff, but like this is way harder to do than coding.
Well, and I would say some of the stuff that Sound Toys does really, really well. If you're using something like Omnisphere, you wouldn't need Sound Toys because you can do it inside the plugin the way that they've made it. You would just get the sound right the first time instead of adding something else on top of it.
Also, if you go on Spectrasonic's site right now, the first thing you see is Oppenheimer. Killer Score by Ludwig. I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name. So, you know what I mean? It's like...
Yeah, it's true. I think you're right.
Like these are some of the most like popular and influential sounds that we'll hear, ever. Like anytime you hear a bass sound, there is a 90% chance it's Trillion if it wasn't played. Anytime you hear like really creative patches or anything like that, it's Omnisphere, you know. And then Keyscape, you could just bet that every piano that you hear on the radio is Keyscape because they rip
and every piano
pianos.
And every piano that isn't an actually played piano for a score is Keyscape.
Yeah, it's like I mean, I would go as far as saying that Keyscape is probably enough to just put it up at the top.
I mean, yeah, that's probably true. There's nothing
that beats it.
All right, Yuhi.
I own 0 of their plugins. I think I tried to download one of their free plugins and it didn't work.
Yeah. So they have one called Triple Cheese. That's actually pretty good. They have a couple good free plugins. I have the Terrell N6 free synth.
So
I actually really like that one
Diva
too.
Is like the big one that all of the people swear by. Like I know that Hans Zimmer loves that synth.
So the Diva is the sound of basically if you like anybody that does that like retro throwback 80s thing that's in Nashville pop, or any kind of synth wave, that's the Diva basically. So like Nightly, Diva, Joan, Diva, the Midnight, all of the Midnight stuff is like primarily Diva synth. And then like Hans Zimmer uses it to score a lot of cool stuff. Like I think it was used all over the Dune soundtrack.
Probably. Oh my gosh,
because he likes it a lot.
Did you watch that video about how they made that score?
I listened to there's a podcast episode of what's the podcast that I listen to that does that stuff? Hold on, I can tell you. Song Exploder, where Hans broke down him scoring the opening to Dune.
I need to listen to it because it's
really good.
So cool. There's like a mini documentary about it on YouTube, and he is like so close with all these musicians, and he'll just be like, hey, can we do this crazy thing? And they're like, sure. They were like building wind instruments out of like PVC pipe in quarantine.
Yeah.
To like make these sounds. And the one dude, he was like basically like Tibetan throat singing through, what are those called? Like the really big tubes that go like, wow, wow, wow.
A didgeridoo.
Yeah, it was like that, but I think it was one that they ended up making. Mm-hmm. And then they mic'd it in a strange way. I think it was PVC. And that was the sound of the Harkonnens. Like whenever they're like doing that blood ritual before they go to battle, like that was the sound. And it was just like this dude, he's like, yeah, man, I just did it. I was like, okay,
that's awesome.
That's so cool. Awesome. Like, I don't know. That's something I could scream about for hours. That score is the coolest thing in the world.
I think so. Here's the problem with Yuhi is that I own some of the free stuff. I do not own anything else. I have used Diva on somebody else's stuff. Like I have used it like myself. That is the only thing I have used.
Dude, I'll be honest. If it wasn't for me, like I haven't used any of their stuff. And so like I know that they're probably really good, but I also don't think it would be fair to put them in A just because Hans Zimmer uses this synth. And then I also don't feel like it would be fair to give them like D because like Hans Zimmer uses the synth. So I think
it's not used. Yeah, we're gonna put it as not used because I haven't used enough of their stuff to have an opinion, and I have a feeling that it would end up in B tier, just because some of their free stuff is good, but it's kind of hit or miss. Diva's great, but I don't know of anything else. I haven't heard anything else other than Diva, so I have a feeling that there could be some great stuff in there, but I have a feeling that the other ones aren't going to hold a candle to some of the other stuff in this list. Does that make sense? So I have a feeling it would fall in B, but I don't have enough to form a strong opinion about it, so we're going to put it in not used.
Yeah.
All right.
And then last
but not least,
everybody's most loved, hated plugin.
This
company,
is both S tier
Waves.
and D tier at the same time.
It is, and
this is this is actually very, very hard to do.
If you're like old as shit, then like you love Waves plugins. They're like your pride and joy. You know, you were on like the Gear Sluts forum reading about how great they sound, and you love that 50 cycle hum or 60 cycle hum that they added to your recordings. Jeez. And you were just like, man, that hiss sounds like hits. But then they did this thing where they made a subscription. And I subscribed because I was curious. Because my biggest pet peeve with Waves is that their plugins are always on sale, right? So you buy a plugin for $30, but then in like a year, they like update it. Like you have to like update your plugins. And then like the update costs like $60. And you're like, but I paid $30 for it. Why do I have to pay $60? And then you have to keep updating and updating and updating. And then before you know it, like throughout the years, like people are spending like thousands and thousands of dollars on these plugins. That sucks. But then they made the subscription for $25 a month. And I subscribed. And I started using Waves plugins again. And because I don't have to deal with any of their bullshit anymore, I think I like Waves plugins. And their post-production stuff that they've been dropping are so good. Like they're almost Isotope quality.
So the thing that gets me, so I use, obviously, like everybody else, I have owned a lot of Waves plugins. I learned to tune on Waves Tune before I learned Melodyne or anything else. I owned a lot of stuff. I swear by their SSL bundle stuff. I actually think that is probably one of the most important Waves bundles, and I think maybe we'll do a tier list of Waves bundles eventually, because that would actually be really fun. That would be very fun. There's so many. There is so much bloat. So that's where it gets kind of crazy. But
here's the weird thing though. With Waves, you could get all of their plugins and not need any other plugins.
You're right.
You know what I mean? Like
other than like
that's
production,
like the weird part
stuff
about it.
But for like mixing,
besides production stuff.
As far as mixing goes.
So what I have discovered in my quest for Waves plugins as of late is the Greg Wells Mix Centric kills Scod Particle.
Really?
It's actually really good. You can't use it hard. You can only get 1 dB or less of gain reduction on it, or else like you get a ton of hiss.
It's like R comp, right? You don't want to slam that thing, but like it can sound good in the right. It's really nice.
On top of that, I started using R comp, RVox, Renaissance Axe. I started using all those plugins again, and I forgot how good they were. Those really plugins are great, and there's a reason why like all these big mixers are still using that. Like I'm sure that someone right now is paying Serban $20,000 for a mix, and he's loading up RVox, like because it still rips.
Yeah. I'm looking through all of their stuff right now.
The channel strips rip, like the Sheps Omni channel V2.
The Abbey Road is okay.
Their Abbey Road reverbs are some of my favorite reverbs.
Their Abbey Road reverbs are good, but like the other stuff, like the saturator and the other stuff.
And I'll be honest, I used to think that the CLA compressors sounded bad. But now I realize that they don't necessarily sound bad. They just have a sound to them. And it's one of those things where we're familiar with that sound. I like the 1176. I love the 3A. Like, those are all really
good. The 3A
good.
on guitars is smacks, bro. The 3A on guitar is awesome. So I will say the Kramer Pi, the compressor, is one of my favorite drum bus compressors because it's got a really good 3-to-1.
I'm about to say some shit that's going to make a lot of people upset. So CLA drums.
Oh yeah.
It's actually really good, man. Like it's actually like if you have a kick drum that's just like kind of annoying, it's like doesn't really do the thing. You just put CLA drums on it, set it on kick and like slide a few faders and it rips. I'm like, man, I downloaded Ableton and every day I just become more and more of an Ableton user. Before you know it, I'm going to be only mixing with CLA plugins.
In Ableton,
CLA vocals, dude.
And I will say they do have a really good DB. They have a really good DBX. The APIs are really good. The API 2500 is actually my favorite API 2500.
It used to be okay. So here's the deal. I didn't think that I liked other API 2500s until I realized that the Waves API 2500 just flat out isn't an API 2500.
I know,
and that's
I
why.
know I know it doesn't sound like an API 2500, but that's why I like it.
If you want something to smack, you use the Waves API 2500.
Oh,
You turn the attack knob all the way to the slowest, and you turn the release knobs all the way to the fastest.
Turn it on louder.
Yeah, turn it on louder, and then it rips. What I will say though is that
it's basically a OTT, but it's like a normal compressor OTT.
So what I will say though is that Universal Audio tears Waves apart.
Oh, 100%. SSL probably tears Waves apart.
I think that there's something about Waves plugins though that have a sound that we're used to, and because you and I learned on Waves plugins,
and
I feel like we have to put them at S tier.
They were the only. I don't know about S tier. So, and here's well, actually, I changed my mind. Hold on, I may agree with you. I'm about to talk myself back into it. Are we really gonna put Fab Filter at A and Waves at S? So that was what I was gonna say.
But like, so that's also like putting.
Here's the thing. If we're talking bloat, nobody has more bloat than Waves.
Facts.
If we're docking native instruments for bloat, nobody has more bloat than Waves.
Facts.
And in comparison, Waves also has really great hardware because they are one of the few companies that you can buy a rack module and run plugins for live usage on just like any console. So that's like the native instruments thing. So
we didn't talk about that though. UA Grid is a real thing.
Yeah, it's true.
You know, so I think where it goes is I think it goes right below Universal Audio.
I think it's an A. I think it might be an A. If we're doing like it by comparison, right? I think Waves is the native instruments of mixing.
Fair. We should put them high A.
I would give them below Fab Filter, above Eventide for legacy.
That's fair. But also Q10 was everybody's notch EQ before Q3 came out.
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. I think Waves did a lot of things right. And I think they led the way for basically all of these other great plugin companies. But one part of the reason that we are so partial to them probably is because they were the sound of records from like the late 90s to 2010. Every major record. And they still are. Yeah, I know. But also, but other things have started to take their place as well.
That's very true. But also, just from the pure like value standpoint of it, like you can't
but we're not money's not, but yeah.
Oh yeah, we're not taking that into consideration.
Yeah, we're not. Money's not
where
going
else
into
can you get
a
linear EQ for $30?
Well, if money was taking into the consideration, UA would be lower.
That's very true.
So
I don't know, but like I feel like they're kind of worth it. You know what I mean? But all right. Let's put them right below Fab Filter.
Because then you're talking accessibility, and that's a different conversation.
Yeah.
I think Waves sitting in A, right below Fab Filter, right above Eventide, is a sweet little spot. Actually, looking at this feels very good.
It does feel very good. I will say that there are a few companies I'm really upset that aren't on here.
So this is the how I came up with this amount of companies is I Googled top 10 audio plugin companies. These are and then I hit the little down arrow, and these are the ones that came up.
Yeah, I know. I did the same thing once you told me that, so I could see what we're looking at. If it were up to me, I think Metric Halo and
I want to talk. Yeah, let's talk. Let's talk honorable mentions.
Yeah, mentions. So S tier 100%, probably the best value out there and best sounding plugins is going to be Metric Halo and Make Believe. Like probably literally at the number one spot, because their Soundtek sounds like an analog EQ. It sounds identical. And then the metric halo channel strip is
it's pretty
still
awesome.
like the most used channel strip of all time for like.
It's also the sound of country music.
Dude, it's the sound of everything,
like it's the sound of like popular music.
Like, you know how I said, like, someone's paying Serbin $20,000 to like pull up RVox. Right before he pulls up RVox, he's pulling up metric halo channel.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And like, RVox is just the finishing touch.
Yeah, it's like they were like the first to make super high quality plugins, and they're still making them, which is cool.
Yeah.
So I would put them S tier.
I would put them pretty up there. Yeah.
Kazrog is another one. They make a lot of cool stuff. I don't think they make a lot of bloat, so they would probably be S tier.
They would probably be pretty high up there.
Whoever makes the oven deserves S tier. I don't know who makes it, if that's Brainworks or if it's someone else. I don't think it's Brainworks, but that should be S tier. Same with Kirchhoff EQ. Who else? Do I know?
That
Valhalla?
Company,
Valhalla is right above Sound Toys.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I use I use their plugins on it so much stuff.
So whenever
I don't even reach for anything for reverbs anymore. I just only use Valhalla stuff.
Yeah, dude. So whenever I was
Sound Toys,
whenever I was re-downloading Vintage Verb last night, their FAQ turned them into my favorite company of all time. And so I'm just going to read some of these real quick. So there's a pricing section for the FAQs. And it says, why are your plugins so affordable? You should charge more money for these. And then he said in parentheses, seriously, I'm not trying to be cheesy marketing guy. I get asked this question a lot. We live in a world where you can get full-featured DAWs for $200 that come with an extensive effects suite. I feel that plugins should not cost more than your DAW. I'd also rather have tools that are available to a wider audience. If the tools are more affordable, more people can use them. Then he said, do you have Black Friday sales? His response, every day is Black Friday at Valhalla DSP. Seriously, though, the plugins are $50 each all year long. $50 per plugin is already a pretty low price.
Yeah.
Then it said, what about Cyber Monday? He said, who comes up with these names? Cyber Monday was an embarrassing phrase in the late 1990s. It hasn't aged any better. And then this one was my favorite. It said, I'm a famous and successful artist / starving student. Can I get a free plugin or discount? And it says, I celebrate your success / feel for you. And I continue to believe that a fixed a la carte price is the best way to treat past, present, and future customers. My work is always going to be an amazing deal, and it's always going to be the same price for everybody. And I love that. I love that so much. Because they managed to become probably the most used reverb of all time for $50. And the dude, I don't know his name. I'm sure it says it like in the about section.
Yeah, dude.
But so this dude apparently is like about as nerdy as you can get about reverbs. Like one day he just set out and he was like, I'm gonna make the best reverb. And then he did it, and then he did it again and again.
And then he did it 4 times. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bro,
and so I think
Supermassive being free is insane. The fact that is a free plugin is just not okay. It's unreal. Mm-hmm. Like that is a multi-$100 plugin at least.
Dude, it's so sick. I love everything about them. I need to get the Room. I don't know why I haven't bought it yet.
The Room's really good on drums. I like it a lot on drums.
Yeah.
It's another good like
nerding out over Room reverbs as of late.
It's a solid or vocal. It's a good vocal like option. I tend to go Valhalla Vintage now setting Dirty Plate has been my my most recent vocal.
They actually have a bunch of free plugins. I didn't.
Yeah, they have a bunch of free plugins. Yeah, cool. They have a frequency shifter that's like crazy.
Yeah. I also think that like plugin companies that just kill it. Valhalla. Who else is there that I just be loving? I don't know. I've kind of like gotten rid of a lot of like the one-offs just so it's easier for me to like keep track of my system.
Yeah.
Besides like a few standouts that I really, really like can't go without.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to open Ableton and see if there's anything that I can.
Bro, Cornef Audio.
Oh, bro, Dan.
I don't like all of the plugins are the best. So that's another S tier.
He literally just only makes incredible stuff.
Yeah. So I mean that's another S tier one. I'm sure there's a bunch I'm forgetting right now. But it's kind of cool watching the smaller companies coming up and just destroying it, you know.
Yeah, I'm so let's see. Some ones that I would like to shout out.
Dude, Ableton default.
Yeah, bro. Literally all of the Ableton stuff.
Literally the default Ableton stuff and then the Avid stuff is like so good.
Nutty. And Reason if you're gonna do that, because like the fact that you can get an entire Reason rack wherever you want is crazy. So
I didn't even talk about this with Waves. I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but they updated their studio rack, so it now is compatible with third-party plugins. So if you want to make chains and use them across multiple DAWs and also set it up like an Ableton rack, you can do that now, and that extension is free.
That's pretty sick,
dude. So sick.
I don't know. I've been a fan. Aberrant DSP makes great stuff. I showed you that Sketch cassette plugin.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of their
Waves
stuff.
Factory.
I think that Waves Factory, they make cool stuff. Aberrant DSP, all those companies are really, really great. I'm a big fan of Future Audio for Sublab.
Yeah.
I mean, they make basically my favorite 808 plugin.
I forgot I need to download that too.
Yeah, you need that. Tal, I don't know if you know Tongu Audio Line. They make this is the only thing that prevents me from getting Arturia is the fact that they make my favorite Juno. They make such a good Juno for the price. It's crazy how good it is.
Yeah, they absolutely do. So that is something that what's my login for this? Never saved. Okay, cool. So I have to reset my password to download Sublab. So what is it? It's I just had it. Then I got distracted. There's a really good plugin company that I can't live without.
I mean, I can keep going down mine while you think about it. Excellent Audio, because I use RC20 on like so much stuff. I've actually started using it for drum buses just to like do some weird stuff. I really have been enjoying if you're talking editing, Celemony and Synchro Arts. You gotta shout out Vocaline.
Yeah.
Because that is everything for popular music, basically.
Yeah. I still can't remember what plugin I was going to talk about.
Oh, another underrated and has a shit ton of free stuff. Kilohearts.
Yeah, Kilohearts. They're sick. Baby Audio's another one.
Yeah. There's a bunch of really good plugin companies out there. I also feel like I enjoyed this because it made me realize like how much I don't want to look into some companies and how much I really want to look into others. Like it made me realize I want Diva really badly so I can have an opinion on Yuhi, but that's kind of the only thing I want from that company, which is fine. I need a really good synth. It's a very good synth. It made me want to look into the Eventide stuff you were talking about. I have no need for the Slate Digital stuff. I got rid of it because I really hate monthly subscriptions.
Yeah, I kind of loathe them as well. I'm going to be canceling my plugin alliance soon, and then I'm going to make the moves to cancel my Slate. Dang, dude, I can't believe that I can't remember what I was going to talk about. a few minutes ago. It's still gone. But I wanted to talk about it the whole time. And now I'm upset.
Well, it happened when we were talking about Tal and the Juno and me.
Yeah, but the thought came up right before that. And then the Tal distracted me because I was like, oh, yeah, that is really good. So now.
Yeah, the Tal stuff is really good.
Oh, Antares, dude.
Yeah, Antares.
That's another one where it's just like, yeah, they're the goat. Good Hertz is insane.
Mm-hmm. What's the one? What's the one that makes the plugin for Wolf that you really like the distortion plugin from?
That's Good Hertz.
That's Good Hertz. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. Toop is my favorite one from them.
Output makes really great stuff. Output's another company that like kind of doesn't miss.
No.
Like they make weird stuff. They make a lot of weird stuff. It's not necessarily always applicable, but they also make a lot of stuff that if you load it up and load a preset or something, you'll get inspired to make something.
Mm-hmm. Dang,
I'm going to give you a minute to try and remember.
Well, whatever plugin I had on my mind, I don't even have it installed yet. And it was one of those things where it's like I keep thinking like, oh, I need to install that. But it's always while I'm in the middle of a session and I don't feel like rebooting Ableton. So I don't know. It'll happen eventually.
It'll come eventually. One day. It'll come to you eventually.
I'm not worried about it.
Well, sick. But, I think we should call it here, Josh. That was a good little. I thought that was pretty fun. I think we should do it again.
That was pretty good. Next time we're gonna do it on guitar brands, and I'm gonna make everybody upset. Or we could do it on converters. So then all these people on TikTok that are talking about how an SM7 sounds better through a Focusrite than an Apollo, they can just be enthralled with rage.
Yeah. I think doing Waves bundles would actually be pretty fun.
Waves bundles would actually be pretty fun because there is a lot of like
there's a lot of Waves bundles
stuff. Like I know, and then they do that thing where it's like here's the mono version, then here's the mono to stereo version, then here's the stereo version. And then like they have like stuff that's meant for like surround. So then you have like
5.1
15 plugins in a row and you're like, what are those?
And it's all named the same thing with different subcategories. Yeah.
Well, it's cool too now that like I have Waves Ultimate, like I can go through and make a list of my favorites, you know.
Yeah. The I think we could probably do it with DAWs. I would have to try more than I currently have. But I
don't know. I don't.
DAWs are also kind of
I
personal
think it's
preference.
Kind of silly to do it on DAWs because it's like at the end of the day, like technically Pro Tools should be at the top for everybody because like everybody uses it. But then it's also like it sucks to produce in. So then Ableton should be second. But then once you get past that, then it's like okay, well Cubase. That's as good as Pro Tools and Ableton combined, basically. So, like, I should put Cubase up top, but then it's like Cubase doesn't have these onboard effects that Ableton has. And it's like, well, Studio One has that. You know what I mean? And so it's like, I don't know. I think like DAWs or whatever. Everybody's just
like, it would actually be really fun. So we could do Waves bundles like by themselves, but we could probably put other bundles competing each other, like. Arturia V Collection versus like we could just do like synth only stuff like Arturia and Native Instruments, like those kind of stuff, and then do mixing only. The problem is a lot of mixing companies also make a lot of plugins like for for production now. So
I remember the company Tokyo Dawn Records.
I would have literally never thought of that.
They're literally probably like they're one of those companies where like they're just doing the Lord's work, and their Kotelnikov compressor is the one thing I've been needing for so long.
Oh yeah? What is it?
So first of all, it's free unless if you upgrade it for like $50, and it is probably the best compressor in the world as far as digital compression goes. It's super easy going. It's the best fast compressor I've ever used. And then if you upgrade, you also get a frequency dependent ratio, which is super, super sick. And it's great on vocals. It's great on drums. It's great on the master. Like, it's really, really good. I know a few guys who are like, this is literally the only software compressor I use anymore.
Dang.
So, yeah. And they have a lot of good stuff. I need to try all of their stuff because every time I talk about it, someone goes, but did you try this other one? Like, it's been changing my life lately. I'm like, no, I haven't, because I'm bad at trying new things.
Yeah, that's fair.
Nova, it's a dynamic EQ. Apparently that thing rips. Downloading it right now.
I'm gonna grab that compressor actually. What I find interesting is that there were 0 D tier. Do you think we were too not hard on some companies?
Well, I mean, in all honesty, like, we probably should have just threw Waves down there, but I've actually been really enjoying my time with them as of late.
I think IK Multimedia could have probably lived in D.
I agree. We put them at C, right? At C, basically because of one reverb plugin and a clipper.
And all of the bass amps.
Yeah. Maybe we should nudge them down.
Yeah, we'll nudge them down to D.
Yeah, we should nudge them down.
We'll nudge them down to D. That'll be our only D.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
There we go. Someone needed to get demoted.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think next time, that feels good. I think the next time I'm going to end up making a limit so we can't put everything in S.
Well, I think how it should be is instead of just Googling it, we like come up with our own list.
Maybe. Well, because
if you think about it, the most popular ones are going to be like the best ones, you know?
Sure. I can make my own list. And
or, of like, what would be funny is if we just
actually non-popular.
We're talking too much now.
I know. We could be like I could just do like non-popular plugin companies, like not a mainline plugin company.
Oh, they just released a new metric AB on Plugin Alliance. I always accidentally go to Plugin Alliance instead of Plugin Boutique. But I think, don't they have like a most popular section or something like that? Like,
maybe
like software. We'll do like bundle complete. No, I don't know.
Regardless.
But, yeah, I don't know. We could do something like, it doesn't matter. No one's even going to listen to this episode. They're like, yeah, I know what plugins are the best because my focus rate sounds the best.
Yeah, I think we'll call it here before we hit the 2-hour mark. Josh, thanks for doing this tier list with me today.
Of course.
I'm going to exit out of that. Listener, thanks for listening. Let us know. What do you think? Did we screw up? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Did we put SSL too high or low? Did we put waves too high?
And if you really care, what you should do is respond to this video with a video of you plugging your SM7 into an Apollo and then plugging it into a Focusrite and saying it sounds better whenever it actually sounds worse through my iPhone speaker. That's what you should really do.
That's what you should actually do.
Yeah, that would be really cool.
No shade at all.
No shade at all. I mean, yeah, we could do a whole episode on that and how it's like really frustrating how people don't know what to listen for. So then they end up spreading really bad information. And now we just have thousands of artists cutting awful vocals thinking it sounds good. So
on that note, we'll see you guys next week.
See you around.
Don't know when this episode's coming out, so we'll see you next time. Later.
Next time. Bye.